The year is 1881. Inside the hushed, cavernous halls of the Harvard College Observatory, an air of mounting frustration hangs heavy, thicker than the dust motes dancing in the faint gaslight. Director Edward Charles Pickering, a man whose ambition was as vast as the cosmos he sought to chart, was at his wits' end. His male assistants, often young, privileged, and prone to carelessness, were proving utterly inept at the painstaking, meticulous work of analyzing photographic glass plates. These plates, nascent relics of a revolutionary new era in astronomy, captured the faint, smeared light of distant stars, each smear a spectral fingerprint waiting to be deciphered. But the men, accustomed to the grander, more theoretical pursuits of science, found the detailed, repetitive labor beneath them. They made errors, they lacked precision, they were, in Pickering's exasperated estimation, utterly useless for the task at hand. In a fit of pique, a moment of profound, if unintentional irony, Pickering famously declared that his own maid could do a better job. He was, of course, right. And in that dismissive, offhand remark, history was about to take an unexpected turn. That maid was Williamina Fleming. A young Scottish immigrant, recently abandoned by her husband, a single mother struggling to survive in a foreign land, Fleming was already a woman acquainted with hardship and the relentless demands of labor. She had arrived in America with her first husband, a tailor, only to be left pregnant and alone. Desperate for work, she found employment at the Pickering household, scrubbing floors, tending to the domestic chaos of a busy academic family. Her hands, calloused from hard work, were about to grasp not a scrubbing brush, but the very keys to unlocking the universe. Pickering, perhaps surprised by his own audacity, or simply driven by pragmatic desperation, offered Fleming a new kind of employment. Not as a domestic, but the computer, a human calculator, tasked with the mind-numbing yet intellectually demanding work of examining those recalcitrant photographic plates. It was an unprecedented move, born less of progressive vision and more of sheer necessity and a director's frustration with the prevailing male scientific culture. Fleming, acutely aware of her precarious position as a single mother in a new country, accepted. This was not a career choice born of ambition, but of survival. She was plunged into a world of glass and light, of faint stellar smudges and spectral lines, a universe captured in emulsion. Her new laboratory was a stark contrast to the opulence of Harvard's academic elite. It was a space of quiet, focused intensity, illuminated by the soft glow of gas lamps, the air thick with the scent of chemicals and old paper. Her tools were rudimentary, a magnifying glass, a keen eye, and an unwavering intellect that had, until then, been relegated to the domestic sphere. The task was monumental, to classify, categorize, and make sense of the dizzying array of celestial objects captured on thousands of photographic plates. Each plate, a snapshot of a tiny corner of the cosmos, held secrets waiting to be unearthed. Fleming's job was to become the translator of these silent cosmic messages. But for this groundbreaking labor, for peering into the fundamental nature of stars, for deciphering the very language of the cosmos, the venerable institution of Harvard University paid her a pittance. Her initial wage was a paltry 25 cents an hour. Let that sink in. In an era where a skilled male laborer could earn upwards of 50 cents an hour and a professor's salary was several $1,000s a year, Fleming, a woman whose intellectual capacity was about to revolutionize astronomy, was compensated at a rate barely above that of unskilled manual labor. This wasn't merely an insult, it was a systemic devaluation of her intellect, her time, and her potential, rooted deeply in the gendered and class-based hierarchies of the late 19th century. This wage spoke volumes about how little the scientific establishment truly valued the woman behind the discoveries. It wasn't about her ability. Pickering himself had implicitly acknowledged her superior aptitude. It was about her social standing, her gender, her lack of formal education, and her immigrant status. She was seen as a replaceable cog in the machine, a pair of hands and eyes, not a mind capable of profound scientific insight. The prevailing view was that women could perform repetitive, detailed work but lacked the capacity for true scientific innovation or leadership. This insidious bias ensured that even as she began to unravel the mysteries of the universe, her economic and professional standing remained firmly rooted to the ground, tethered by the chains of institutional prejudice. The initial hours, days, and weeks were likely grueling. The repetitive strain on her eyes, the sheer volume of plates, the intellectual isolation of the work, all were challenges she faced daily. Yet Fleming, with a quiet resolve born of necessity and an emerging passion for the cosmos, persevered. She didn't just perform the task, she mastered it. She brought to the work an unparalleled precision, an intuitive ability to discern patterns, and an unwavering commitment that soon set her apart. But as she began to unlock the secrets held within those glass plates, contributing foundational knowledge that would shape the future of astrophysics, the question loomed large. Would the magnitude of her contributions ever truly be recognized, or would her discoveries forever be overshadowed by the shadow of a barely there wage and the systemic invisibility it represented? The initial hours, days, and weeks were likely grueling. The repetitive strain on her eyes, the sheer volume of plates, the intellectual isolation of the work, all were challenges she faced daily. Yet Fleming, with a quiet resolve born of necessity and an emerging passion for the cosmos, persevered. She didn't just perform the task, she mastered it. She brought to the work an unparalleled precision, an intuitive ability to discern patterns, and an unwavering commitment that soon set her apart. But as she began to unlock the secrets held within those glass plates, contributing foundational knowledge that would shape the future of astrophysics, the question loomed large. Would the magnitude of her contributions ever truly be recognized, or would her discoveries forever be overshadowed by the shadow of a barely there wage and the systemic invisibility it represented? The initial hours, days, and weeks were likely grueling. The repetitive strain on her eyes, the sheer volume of plates, the intellectual isolation of the work, all were challenges she faced daily. Yet Fleming, with a quiet resolve born of necessity and an emerging passion for the cosmos, persevered. She didn't just perform the task, she mastered it. She brought to the work an unparalleled precision, an intuitive ability to discern patterns, and an unwavering commitment that soon set her apart. But as she began to unlock the secrets held within those glass plates, contributing foundational knowledge that would shape the future of astrophysics, the question loomed large. Would the magnitude of her contributions ever truly be recognized, or would her discoveries forever be overshadowed by the shadow of a barely there wage and the systemic invisibility it represented? Following that meager wage, a stark testament to the institutional undervaluation of her intellect, Williamina Fleming's work ethic and innate genius began to transform the Harvard College Observatory from the inside out. She didn't just classify stars, she innovated the very process of classification. The initial task was daunting: to bring order to the chaotic, often inconsistent observations of stellar spectra. Before Fleming, astronomers often used idiosyncratic methods, making cross-referencing and comparative analysis incredibly difficult. Fleming, with her characteristic precision and systematic mind, developed a standardized system for spectral classification, a methodology so robust and logical that it remains foundational to astrophysics even today. This wasn't a simple labeling exercise. It was an act of profound scientific synthesis, creating a coherent language for the stars. She processed tens of thousands of photographic plates, each one a window into a different celestial realm. Imagine the sheer dedication. Hours upon hours, day after day, peering through a magnifying glass at faint, often indistinct patterns of light. Her keen eye, sharper and more consistent than almost any man's in the observatory, including Pickering himself, allowed her to discern subtle variations that others missed. This meticulous labor led to an astonishing output: over 10,000 star classifications across various catalogs, 59 gaseous nebulae, 310 variable stars, and 10 novae. These weren't mere tallies. Each classification, each discovery, added a crucial piece to humanity's burgeoning understanding of the cosmos. Nebulae, once thought to be distant galaxies, were revealed as stellar nurseries. Variable stars became critical tools for measuring cosmic distances, and novae provided insights into the dramatic life cycles of stars. Fleming was charting the very architecture of the universe, one plate at a time. Crucially, in 1888, her extraordinary observational skill led her to be the first person, male or female, to identify the iconic Horsehead Nebula on a photographic plate. This now famous dark nebula in the constellation Orion, a silhouette of cosmic dust against a glowing background, is one of the most recognizable objects in the night sky. Fleming's notation on plate B2312, taken by Pickering's assistant William Henry Pickering on January 19, 1888, was precise and understated. Peculiar bright nebula, semicircular in shape, 30 minutes preceding Zeta Orionis. This was not just an observation, it was a discovery of immense visual and scientific significance. Yet, when the discovery was published in Pickering's Miscellany in 1890, the credit was initially given to William Henry Pickering. Her name, the name of the true discoverer, was buried deep within the text, often minimized or simply omitted, her role reduced to that of an anonymous computer. This systematic suppression of her individual breakthroughs was not an accident. It was a feature of the prevailing scientific establishment. Fleming's name was often relegated to footnotes, appendices, or collective acknowledgments of the Harvard computers, a group of women she would later supervise. The magnitude of her unique insights and discoveries went largely unrecognized by the scientific elite, who were quick to claim credit for the findings of their subordinates, especially if those subordinates were women. The institutional gatekeepers, predominantly male, saw no contradiction in benefiting immensely from her intellectual labor, while simultaneously denying her the credit, status, and compensation she so clearly deserved. It was a convenient arrangement: exploit the labor, claim the glory, and maintain the existing power structures. Consider the profound injustice embedded in this pattern. Fleming didn't just see the Horsehead Nebula, she saw its significance, interpreting the faint photographic evidence with an expert eye. She didn't just record stellar spectra, she developed the classification system that made sense of them. These were acts of scientific interpretation and innovation, not merely clerical transcription. Yet, the official narrative consistently painted her as a diligent worker, a skilled technician, but rarely as a true scientist or discoverer. The language used to describe her work was carefully crafted to diminish her agency and intellectual contribution. This era was one where scientific authority was intrinsically linked to gender and social standing. A woman, particularly one without a university degree and from a working-class background, was simply not to make such groundbreaking discoveries. When she did, the system found ways to absorb her findings into the existing male-dominated framework, attributing them to the master rather than the maid. It begs a critical question, not just for Fleming, but for countless others. Who truly owned these cosmic revelations? Was it the person whose name graced the official publication, or the keen mind whose tireless efforts and intellectual brilliance actually brought them to light? The answer, for Williamina Fleming, was a tragic and infuriating testament to the systemic biases that still plague science, reminding us that the path to discovery is often paved with unrecognized genius. Despite the systemic resistance and the constant battle for proper recognition that plagued her early career, Williamina Fleming's brilliance could not be entirely extinguished. Her groundbreaking Draper Catalog of Stellar Spectra, published in 1890, was not merely a collection of data. It was a scientific magnum opus. This monumental work, almost entirely compiled by Fleming, became the international standard for stellar classification, a testament to her meticulousness, her innovative methodology, and her unparalleled skill. It provided a uniform, systematic framework that allowed astronomers worldwide to compare and understand stellar characteristics in a way never before possible. The catalog was, in essence, the Rosetta Stone for understanding the chemical composition and evolution of stars, laying a crucial foundation for the nascent field of astrophysics. Its impact was immediate and profound, yet the name Williamina Fleming remained largely obscured behind the institutional weight of the Harvard Observatory and the names of its male directors. In 1899, in a grudging nod to her undeniable contributions and growing indispensability, Fleming was appointed curator of astronomical photographs. This was a supervisory role, placing her in charge of the burgeoning collection of glass plates and, significantly, in charge of the very women who would later be known collectively as the Harvard Computers, a team she had essentially trained and whose work she directed. It was a position of considerable responsibility, demanding organizational acumen, leadership skills, and an intimate understanding of the vast astronomical archives. She managed the daily operations, ensured the accuracy of the data, and oversaw the intellectual labor of an entire department. This promotion, while significant for a woman of her background, was still a far cry from the academic recognition and financial compensation typically afforded to male scientists performing equivalent intellectual and managerial tasks. A professorship, a living wage commensurate with her unparalleled contributions, remained stubbornly elusive, trapped behind the impenetrable walls of gender and class prejudice. The true irony lies in the external recognition she eventually garnered, often preceding any substantial internal acknowledgement from Harvard. In 1906, in a landmark achievement that underscored her global standing, she received an honorary membership to the Royal Astronomical Society of London, the first American woman to achieve this prestigious honor. This was not a token gesture. It was a profound affirmation from the international scientific community of her immense contributions. She was also made an honorary member of the Astronomical Society of Mexico. These accolades from abroad highlighted the stark contrast with her treatment at home. While the world's leading astronomical bodies recognized her as a peer, the institutional structures at Harvard never truly elevated her to the status she had earned through decades of groundbreaking work. She was still, in the eyes of many within the university, merely a highly skilled computer, not a full-fledged scientist deserving of the highest academic honors and financial rewards. Her work, however, continued to speak volumes, transcending the petty politics of academic credit. Fleming published over a dozen papers in her own name, a remarkable feat for a woman of her era and position. Her meticulous observations and innovative classifications continued to drive astronomical research. She was the architect of a new way of seeing the stars, a vision that continues to shape our understanding of the universe. Her legacy endures, woven inextricably into the fabric of modern astrophysics. Every time we gaze at the majestic Horsehead Nebula, every time we classify a star by its spectral type, every time we use variable stars to measure cosmic distances, we are, consciously or unconsciously, seeing through the eyes of Williamina Fleming. Her story is a powerful, poignant reminder that genius knows no gender, no class, no educational background. It is also a stark indictment of the systemic barriers that have historically prevented countless brilliant minds from receiving their due. Fleming's life and work force us to confront uncomfortable questions. How many more foundational discoveries remain attributed to the wrong name, simply because the discoverer was a woman, undervalued and underpaid? How many scientific breakthroughs were delayed? How many lives potentially impacted because the gatekeepers of knowledge prioritize status and gender over sheer, undeniable brilliance?
Her story is not just a historical footnote. It is a call to action, urging us to actively seek out and restore the hidden legacies that continue to underpin our world, ensuring that the light of forgotten heroes like Williamina Fleming shines as brightly as the stars she so meticulously charted.